Welcome to Climate Curious Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDx experts in under 10 minutes.
Climate Curious producer Ben Beheshty here. In this week's Climate Curious, we're asking, how do we keep our hearts open to a world that feels like it's breaking? Joining us to answer that mammoth question is environmental juggernaut and climate OG Paul Hawken. Paul shares tips for how he navigates the modern media landscape, how grief can help us tap into new ideas and solutions, and why it's not hope that we all need, but courage. This one hits close to home for Climate Curious, so be warned, it may be a bit of a tearjerker. On how grief can help you identify new routes forward, here's Paul Hawken. Stay curious.
To me, there's very simple, I don't mean binary ways, but a way of being and seeing the world that say, yeah, look, I mean, it's hard to wake up this morning and listen to the news about Iran. Okay, it's very, very difficult for me to listen to that, and my heart aches. But you mentioned something, Ben, about grief. And to me, grief is a fantastic, wonderful blessing as an emotion. You want to feel grief. If you're not feeling grief, then I don't think you're really aware of what's going on, you know? And grief comes from the heart, all right? It comes from the heart. And the heart is the one organ that always tells the truth. Count on it. You want to know the truth? So grief is a blessing. It's a guide. It's a signal. It's us being our best self when we feel grief. Because it's our heart. And that's what's missing, you know, when we open the page or listen to the news that day. Oh, where's the heart in all this, you know? It's not there, it's gone, it's absent. But not in most people in the world, you know? So I have faith, a tremendous faith in people in the world who are mothers and fathers and children and care and act on that, based on that care and do the best they can. And they will surmount, you know, the concentrations of power that exist today that are destroying our cultures and our places and our land and our oceans and our seas and our forests. And yeah, they will.
Yeah. This is incredible. Sorry, Paul, this must be a really weird experience for you. Normally when we do these interviews, like we're like laughing and joking and like making witty observations. And for the listeners, you can't see what we're seeing in this moment. Maryam's having a very visceral reaction to this conversation. And I'm getting like goosebumps because it feels like you are in lots of ways speaking to us maybe from the future. I don't know. It feels like you're able to embody something in this conversation that feels like it is completely lacking for most of us in this moment, which is like hope. And it's hope that's not based in a fairy tale of like what could happen. It's a hope that is rooted in a very like honest and accurate and in some ways like quite brutal like analysis of the situation that we're in, but it feels so necessary. It feels so true to what we're going through. Maryam, I don't know if you want to respond. You don't have to, but
no,
I just want to ask a question. Or
I will say that I have done so many of these. I mean, hundreds of these interviews with Ben, and I don't think I've like cried like this in any of them. So, Paul, apologies. I am Iranian, and so I feel that grief that you speak about at the moment. And I think what has become so evident, and what I hear from you, is that we have like lost our ability to see each other's humanity and that connection to the world around us. Like, I think there's nothing more symbolic that I've heard that, you know, you will have seen this in the news, but when they bombed the oil refineries in Iran, that then followed by days of oil basically raining from the sky, followed by 1 foot of snow landing on Tehran. And this kind of symbolism of how we've lost our connection to each other, you know, so deeply, and nature is kind of coming in and trying to do what we seem to be failing at. It just felt to me very symbolic to see those things happen in succession. And yeah, it's very moving, hence why I'm in this state.
Yeah, I mean, what you described in Tehran, with the snow and the oil, I mean, the black and the white, so to speak, the heat of oil, not, hasn't been burned yet, but it was bombed, and that's heat. And then, the contrast to the frozen water is beyond mythical. It's like, it's indescribable for, I think, period, but for the people who live there, and who then, by the way, the other part of that is to breathe enormously toxic air. I mean, not just smog, when you bomb an oil refinery and oil tanks and so forth, that oil is poison. It's poison in the air. It's not like, toxic or bad air. No, it's poison. And so people are being poisoned. And, but, you said something about hope, Ben, and, people, I mean, maybe this will make you laugh, maybe not, but people ask me, he said, are you hopeful? I'm saying, no, not at all. And they're like, whoa, you've just done this whole thing about that, and you're not hopeful. I said, no, I'm not. And I said, my Buddhist background is that teaches that hope is the pretty mask of fear. In other words, you don't hope unless you're afraid. And I said, what we need now is courage. I don't want to hear about hope. I want to hear about courage. And because courage, is the heart. That's the root of the word, And so that's what we need. That's what we need to be ourselves and so forth. And I don't mean to disabuse hope and what that brings to people, but I'm just saying is what we need is courage, and to be fearless, and in who we are, what we do, and why we're here. And so to me, the environmental crisis, the climate crisis, all these things that are called crises and so forth, what we're experiencing and seeing and so forth, is, it brings us to life. Or not. It's your choice, our choice. But it changes the whole fabric and quality of our life and what it means to be a human being right now. And you look at the panorama of things that are dangling out there in terms of trying to seduce us or get us to buy, experience, do, or go, and you realize it's just like silly trinkets, and it doesn't. Those things aren't important. They're not, and they're harmful. And we harm ourselves when we're attracted to them, or, beguiled by them, or think that somehow we'll have a better life if we buy this or look this way. And we won't. And so it's a really interesting time of disillusion as well, which I think is actually what the activists and whether on the streets or whether in the schools or whether whatever they're doing, what they're doing is really a thing of stripping away illusions. People don't like their illusions stripped away, because they cling to them. It's their identity. And basically, our media, with all due respect, our television, the BBC, so forth, we're creating false identities. And because they're not being, the BBC never, that I know of, I read it faithfully and so forth, is very factual. I trust their fact checking, but they're not telling us the truth. That doesn't mean they're lying or telling us untruth. No, it's just they're not telling us the truth.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
stay curious.